Joining us on this edition, Dave Keuning. Dave, how's it going, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I'm outside in San Diego.
Awesome.
You know, Dave, a couple years back when Prismism came out, we had spoken, and at that time you told me you made the conscientious decision to depart from the Killers because of, one, you wanted to spend more time with your family, and two, you had a lot of material that wasn't making the band's track listings. Now that you're a solo artist, are you seeing that come to fruition?
With myself, yeah, people ask where the material comes from, and it all comes from me. I show quite a bit of it to the Killers, and there's no way it would all be used anyway. And then there's 3 other guys with their own ideas to contribute. So no matter, even if they used all 10 of my ideas on a record, I would still have extra stuff. So, because I kind of walk on a fine line here between like the reasons why I did that. I've always been this way. When I was a kid, I made up songs on a boombox before I had any instrument. It was I wish I had those recordings, but it's just I was like 8 years old at the time. And then I finally got a guitar, and this is just what I've always done. So
it's just a habit. It's a habit first, and then the Killers came along.
So.
On a mild case of everything, I mean, you've got 16 tracks here. This is a lot to say.
Yeah. I considered putting out, like, I had a lot of time during COVID to write, and then I thought about doing 2 records, but I just don't have the patience to wait. I was just like, just get it out now, because a lot of people are gonna pick and choose songs anyway. Hopefully some people listen to the whole record in its entirety. I feel like that's what I do, but that's not what most people do. So I'll give them a choice. They can pick and choose, or they can hear the whole thing, but they don't have to wait another year for a second album.
Were any of these tracks potential tracks that could have made the Killers discography?
I mean, there's 1 or 2 that we worked on, and then just either never got finished or didn't fit the record, or I can't waltz in and say we're making this song. It's got to be you have to have other people that like it, and that's kind of a litmus test too. If your other band members like it, it's so. I think this just allows me to, if I really like a song, to see it through to the end. There's a few of them that I wish that maybe I showed to the Killers in other stages. It's kind of hard to know what to do. Like I said, there's a lot to pick from in the end either way.
You use the terminology in the end and in the end at the end of the day and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking ends of the earth. That sounds like gold to me. Like that sounds like, to me, when I heard the record, that was my favorite track. It immediately, my ears pricked up. Did you show that to the Killers, and did they say, nah, not this one? I mean, what were they thinking?
I can't say exactly what they were thinking. I showed quite a few. Maybe it just didn't fit the record, or maybe I should have waited longer to hold on to it. I don't know.
You can clearly, Dave, that's funny because Ben mentioned that track. For me, I guess it would be The Fountain and probably Bad Instinct. Those are my 2 favorite tracks. But you do have this signature sound, and obviously we hear portions of the Killers in there, but like I hear like a lot of your early influences, and I'm not surprised that you were influenced by David Bowie.
Yeah, he's more of I guess it's been like 20 years, but I suppose he was like something in my early 20s I started to get into. A lot of my musical taste started changing around the years, but I don't know. And he's another artist who like just kind of does whatever he wants album to album, and I like that. His last album is really good too, Black Star, but it's like an experimental jazz record or whatever it is, but it's a great record.
Yeah, the audacity that Bowie had to just flaunt whatever he wanted to do on each album. Like, he was a very adventurous artist. When I hear your record, I'm hearing like synth pop, almost like nostalgic, Frank Black meets the Strokes or the Cars, a little bit of Depeche Mode tendencies, with some of the synth sounds in there. It's very colorful, very positive mood. I really like the sound of your voice, actually. It's easy to listen to. It's like the lyrics are clear to hear. It's just nice to hear music like that. Are you happy with this record? Obviously, they're your babies, all of these songs, but how do you feel about like venting these out, coming out on your own, like out of the Killers and doing stuff like this?
Well, I've never been a bragger, but I am really proud of this record. And I was a lot more comfortable singing this time around because it's just something that I should have done a long ago, because it gives me control to finish a song that, instead of finding another singer or whatever. Because I had been in bands before the Killers too, and I was never the singer. And then you rely on the other singer to finish your music. So this allows me to do it all from home and just finish whatever I want.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know when you were creating Prismism, all the instrumentation was done by you. Is that the same for this album?
Yeah, 99% of Prismism. There might have been like the engineer who put a couple, either a keyboard or guitar part here and there, and that was pretty much the same thing here. I did, except I would say I did close to 99.99% of everything, except for some drum parts that had a better drummer play. Like I usually play it on the demo, and then the drummer I use is also runs his own studio, so he can make them sound better too.
There was a lyric line on The Fountain, the song that Doug really likes, saying, "I prefer living my life in a bubble." Is that some sort of, is that alluding to like COVID lockdown, or is that something else? It just caught my attention,
Yeah, it conveniently works with COVID, but it's how I've felt pretty much my whole life, to be honest. It's just the line is exactly what it sounds like. I've always been kind of a hermit. So I loved COVID because it gave me an excuse to continue to be a hermit and work on music at home and
do what you want to do.
That's all I wanted to do was, is just work on music or watch movies or play video games, is what everyone was doing. I never complained.
I also got to bring up Peace and Love. It was a different track on the album. Like you've got the sort of the Cars, Frank Black vocals, and then all of a sudden Peace and Love comes along, and it's a different touch to the album. It's a nice change, and I think it's probably my second favorite track. And it's almost got this sort of Weezer vibe, like that teenager sort of nerd rock Weezer vibe, but it's also got that Ringo Starr slogan, peace and love. Any thoughts on that track you'd like to share?
It does have just a touch of Weezer vibe in it. I've actually thought of that. It's definitely John Lennon influenced. I just wanted to, watched a lot of TV last year. I think we all did, and there was a lot of crazy stuff happening, and that song does not take sides. It's just saying like, why is this so hard to get along? Why is this so hard? And I kind of wish I would have made it a little longer, but I actually just wanted a simple thing to sing along to, because of all the stuff that was happening. And with less verse lyrics, I guess there's like almost nothing to like argue about in that song. There's nothing to debate. It's just saying like, why can't we all get along?
Yeah.
You threw out a John Lennon reference just now. Were Beatles a heavy influence in your career?
Yeah, I think always, just because they are the best, and I listen to them a lot. And I can't, other than that song definitely reminded me of Lennon. But the other stuff, it just sneaks in there. That their songs are great because their verses are as strong as their choruses on a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually went through during the pandemic just because I wanted to kind of play along to something, and I was like, well, what better band than the Beatles? I've got that thick Beatles songbook. and I went through like album by album. It was kind of an undertaking, especially when I get to past masters. There's quite a few songs in the White Album, but yeah, I kind of played along to like every song at least once or twice and made notes of songs I like more, because I'd heard most of them at least once, some several times, but it was really good. And just kind of seeing how they wrote stuff. They have cool intros that are only in the song like once for 30 seconds and then never come back in like a different
Like
key.
Sexy Sadie has like a completely different intro to the rest of the song on the White Album. And no, it's interesting. Like talking about the Beatles, you kind of bear similarities, not looks wise, but like just your story wise, to George Harrison, who was a member of the Beatles, was a guitarist like yourself, and was always trying to like get his songs out with his band, but ended up sort of shelving or elbowing them to the side all the time, and getting frustrated in the process because he was so creative. And he was kind of rising to the fore with these other guys like, Lennon, McCartney, and all that, understandably. But he had this backlog full of stuff. And then when he went solo, it was just like, boom, there's like a double album worth of, heaps of songs, like 50 songs. And that's why one of his first solo albums is so good. It's got loaded with hits. And that's just
Ben, All Things Must Pass is probably better than any of their solo careers.
Yeah. Even McCartney's Ram was amazing. I mean, even like all of these guys had songs that they couldn't fit on Beatles albums because they had to share 3 songs each or whatever. Do you understand that frustration like firsthand?
Yeah, I 100% do. And I don't want to use the word frustration like right now, but it's like if my idea isn't used anymore, I don't, I've done this so many times. I don't get mad. I'm just like, well, it's not for everybody. I can't make them use it. I'll just put it to the side and I'll work on later. And then I'll show them another idea and another idea and another idea. And there's no point in arguing about it or getting frustrated. But it is what it is. It's just, George Harrison had a lot of leftover material, and I'm sure he was in a happy position after the Beatles to kind of explore all that and do whatever he wanted. And that's kind of what I do at home.
Your incorporation of the synth on this album. I mean, when anybody has heavy synth in an album, you're walking a fine line because you could easily date yourself, but you do a great job of modernizing the sound. Are you fully cognizant of that while you're doing this?
Somewhat. I try to not overthink it. Like if something just feels good to me, because I know I've been in other bands and other side projects where they're like, well, that sounds a little too like this band or this sound. It's like, well, if it feels right and it sounds good, I want to start with that and not worry too much. Actually, that's something that like the engineer and producer kind of to give them a little credit are good with, because I tend to go for stock sounds, which is something that producers like shy away from. They like to make their own. I have no shame in using stock keyboard sounds. And I don't think anyone listening cares either, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, it's a quick way to get what you want, though, isn't it? And if it sounds good, it sounds good at the end of the day. There's also similarities I noticed with your story with John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, where he left the band, did some solo stuff. But the reason why he left, he said, was because he didn't want to go on a big, long, lengthy tour. He just wanted to keep recording because he's an artist and he wants to write, and just playing the same songs over and over and going on like a year tour just didn't appeal to him. So he just kind of took a back step, and he did it at Lollapalooza. And I read that you kind of did that around a Lollapalooza with the Killers. Is that a tour thing or is that a Lollapalooza thing?
It's not a Lollapalooza. So he played Lollapalooza, right? Is that in that scenario?
I think so, yeah. And that was like, he was like in 1992, the first time he left, he was like, yeah, Lollapalooza, I'm leaving,
Lollapalooza, Chicago, that was my last big Killer show. But that is just because it happened to be last on that. But I probably relate to him more than some of the other people you could give examples of. touring is tough. It's not that it's tough to get on a plane. I love playing the shows. It's just like a life choice of being gone 90% of the time. And when it's a year-long commitment or 2-year commitment, and then it's it can be hard to do time after time after time after time after time.
You mentioned Lollapalooza. Is there a difference, I mean, in your approach taking the stage to playing in front of 60,000 people compared to smaller capacity crowds?
I want to say no, but there is differences. I mean, I remember the first time we played a bigger I forget, arena or whatever, and it was a step up and a step up. We kept playing bigger places, and it does have a totally different vibe. And we played Wembley Stadium. We had already been playing for years, and then that was a new feel. Like you're playing a stadium with a lot of room. I wasn't intimidated by the amount of people, strangely, but the amount of space. Everything you do live, if you think you're moving around a lot and having a great night, it's not near as much as you think. Like if you think you're going crazy to the audience, it means you're moving a little.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
So you really got to try if you want to have a great show that makes it look like you're doing something other than just standing there.
You gotta be like Mick Jagger out there.
I know. Or I saw an AC/DC show in Sydney, and that guy humbled me. It was like he was in his 50s. And I remember thinking, well, I finally get to see AC/DC, and even though he's like a little older, who cares? But man, he had more energy than like I had in like a tour.
Yeah, but he's a freak. I was watching a video of AC/DC with Angus just headbanging while he's playing, and he didn't stop headbanging for like 4 minutes, and it was like, it wasn't just like this, it was like crazy, like hair going like this, and he's playing. He did it for like 4 minutes straight. I think, isn't he going to get dizzy? Like, what's happening to his brain right now? Like, but like he's a freak. Like he's just another one of those guys. It's just like far out. That is rock and roll. Like that guy is. He's got to be one of the greatest, Angus Young.
I consider him one of the greatest. I don't know how he doesn't hurt himself, but.
Yeah.
So right now, at this point in your career, you made this decision to leave the Killers. Are you content with that?
Well, I'm kind of back in. I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention. So like,
wait, what? Hold on. No,
I never officially left.
Right. I know that. Yeah. I shouldn't have said you left.
On hiatus.
So when the COVID happened, they stopped the tour, and then they began work on another album that is like 99% done. Don't know when it's coming out, but it's basically done. And I was a part of that record.
Interesting. Okay.
I think we can call that the 7th Killers record. Whatever is after, if Mirage is 6th, then this is 7th. And then we're writing and working on the 8th record already.
So are you going to go back on tour with them as well?
I can't answer that right now, but I really hope to play some of those shows. And it's like, I haven't seen the schedule. There's like people misquoted me saying I'm for sure doing it. I don't want to say I'm doing it either way, just because I don't want people to jump to conclusions. I miss playing the shows. I can tell you that much.
Just stay away from Lollapalooza, man.
No, I made sure and play Lollapalooza.
Oh, there you go. I play the crap out of that, man.
Yeah, I played the crap out of it. I wasn't. I didn't want to take a break before Lollapalooza.
But even as Keuning, I mean, you were on the festival circuit. I mean, I saw you at Kaboo, and yeah, I mean, you were playing in front of a lot of people.
Well, the Kaboo was great, and that was the last Kaboo, it turns out.
Right.
So I would have liked to have done more of my solo stuff on festivals, but actually I only did a handful. It's tough, especially when you play early, and that was a pretty good show, but you're like competing with other bands across, and it's a good and a bad thing. It's a good because you get some people wandering in, but I can also like see the other bands.
Now that you've had a taste of doing, solo albums, and this one is so good, do you think that, going back into the Killers, that you'll still continue to do your own thing along as you go, or maybe even sing some of your solo songs as a part of the set, maybe, or you've had a taste, it's good, you should, do that as well?
I don't see my solo stuff being played as part of the set. You know, I don't think any band members have done that. But I mean, anything's possible, but I seriously doubt it. But no, I'm always, now that I've kind of opened up this can of worms, and I think I'm always going to do it, no matter how busy I am. But I'm focused on the next Killers record right now already. The eighth one I mentioned, I'm focused on working on that. Um, so, because I feel like I really got a lot out of this record, this Mild Killer thing. I got a lot of stuff that that I hadn't used for years. So this really is a collection,
a return to
of great stuff that I've kind of been saving, and it'll, you know, so I'm pretty proud of it. And but even if it's one song here and there, or I collect them and put out another album in a few years, I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. I guess I've thought about doing it under different names, you know, so maybe I'll experiment with different names. I don't know.
I think you should keep going, and if they, you know, they shelve or elbow some of those songs, you should save them for the next one coming up, like you have. Talking
Ben,
about touring and the lengthy touring, with the lengthy touring, the Beatles in '66 kind of got over the touring to the point where when they did Sgt. Pepper's, they decided that album conceptually would be them going out on tour without them actually going out on tour, kind of like Elvis's Car going out on tour instead of Elvis. You know, people still going to see Elvis's Car. That's what sort of Sgt. Pepper's was set up for. Like, you know, you got the band, welcome the band, Billy Shears, and then at the end, it's time to go to bed now. The Beatles are going home. See you later, guys. Do you think that an album, you know, being a guy that's sort of like, you know, waning on tour, it's a long time. Do you think that an album can do that in this era and have the similar impact where you can release an album and it still have the same impact, like Sgt. Pepper's maybe?
No, it's a short answer.
Yeah.
I think they're separate things. I think we're in weird times now where, you know, artists make way more money touring than selling. It's amazing to me how hard it is to convince someone to buy my record or a Killer's record for 10 or 15 bucks, but they'll pay like $50 to $100 to go see bands that they maybe don't, you know, only have one of their albums or don't even, because it just, oh, that'll be a fun night. That'll be a fun weekend. We'll get 4 tickets from my friends. Here's $200. Here's $400. But can I have $10 for an album? People are like, yeah, no, I need that for groceries. You know, like,
yeah,
it's like, it's a really hard thing to get. And, you know, with streaming and everything, of course they're getting it for much cheaper. So why would you buy it? So times have just changed a lot. So I don't know if there's any way a piece of music can be the same as touring, unless it was something that was in theaters worth seeing or something.
You know, Dave, you were talking about performing on the festival circuit and competing with other artists. It sparked a memory. I remember being at Coachella, I think it was maybe 2011, and I'm watching the Black Keys on main stage. In the meantime, Brandon is with his solo stuff on the side stage. And then you came out and we hear Mr. Brightside. And then there was like a flood of people leaving the Black Keys running over to you.
Well, I don't know what to say. So,
you remember that, right?
I remember playing it. I don't remember the Black Keys because I was probably backstage, you know,
right,
getting ready.
Yeah.
But
Black Keys were on main stage at that time, and you and Brandon were on the other side stage. So we had the Killers and the Black Keys on 2 competing stages.
Yeah, we have a lot of the same fans too, so that's too bad.
Oh, that's awesome.
So how are your close friends and maybe like the Killers and your family and your real close sort of inside group, how do they feel about this new solo album that you've just released?
They all like it. You know, I value their opinion when it comes to songs and which ones are better and whatnot. And like The Fountain, for example, was one I liked it, but it almost didn't make the record. But a lot of my friends and just really liked it and said you should work on that. So that was the last song finished, and I'm glad I listened to them. So I pretty much, I have friends are pretty supportive.
Well,
that's good.
Dave, before we go, is there anything that you wanna add?
get asked this a lot, and then I remember something 10 minutes later. But so, I got to start making notes. No, I guess I don't. It comes out June 25th. But this was a lot of fun.
Now, if it does come out, is it a double disc album?
No, well, it'll be a double vinyl, but it'll be packaged as one album.
Right.
It'll take two vinyl. So had to be that way.
Oh,
That's pretty cool. It's like a George Harrison sort of pent up, double album, coming out of the band. Track 10, Don't Poke the Bear. I can't help but admit that I heard, the Fantasia Never-Ending Story dream sequence on the keyboard there. Did you watch Never-Ending Story as a kid? Like we all did, or because that was hey?
I have no memory of it, but I was using a very 80s keyboard, so I must have done something right.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's kind of like halfway into the song, it goes into like Never-Ending Story, and I'm like, is that Never-Ending Story? This is awesome, So maybe that's just an awesome coincidence. That's cool.
I think it's just an awesome coincidence. I did set out to, I kept adding parts, and I was, I shaped. It was over 10 minutes long, so I was happy to have a pretty long story as the song. So I was happy to have this epic thing that takes many different turns.
So is Ends of the Earth going to be the single for the record, or is that your favorite track?
It's definitely a lot of people's favorite track. Yeah, that and The Fountain and Bad Instincts, and those are all three available right now.
Awesome.
Oh, so I didn't even know those were the singles, so I wasn't far off in my selection.
You were not far off. Good judgment. Yeah, those are already out on some formats.
Dave Keuning, thank you so much for joining us today.
But,
Amazing to hear your story, your solo story, and especially now hearing you're back in the Killers. I'm gloating with excitement. Don't forget, A Mild Case of Everything, available June 25th. Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.